Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Carolyn. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com, and we may feature your email on our listener experience zone, The Les. March Madness is happening this week.
Yes, and the brackets are officially live.
They are live, and we have a Women's Sports Weekly bracket. It is free to join. Head to the link in our bio on Instagram or head into the show notes of this episode and you will find a link there. Click join the bracket, log into CBS or sign up, and you can make your picks now. And you need to make your picks now because all brackets must be completed before the first round begins on Friday, March 20th. There will be a prize for the winner.
Yes. I hope I win this year.
What are you going to do with your prize? Should we say what the prize is?
Sure.
The winner of the bracket will receive $50, and we hope that you will use that $50 towards something women's sports related, but we don't care what you use it for. We do care a little bit, but I'm going to pretend like I don't care. You can use it for whatever, but you could buy tickets to a game. You could get half a jersey. You
could get a t-shirt for your favorite team, a sweatshirt, all the above. If I won, I would purchase some Denver Summit FC gear.
Ooh, love it. Love it.
What about you?
I might copy you. I've been eyeing up the Denver Summit jerseys.
We need to get something before their home opener, but I can just buy more gear by then if one of us wins.
For the sake of fun, I hope someone that's not us wins.
We haven't won yet in the past 2 years. So.
I've been like at the bottom of our bracket, but please sign up for our bracket. Like we mentioned, it's free to join. Come have fun with us. We are so thrilled for March Madness.
Yes. This weekend was a huge weekend for sports, in Denver especially. Personally, we did watch and attend sports. We also have a basement update. Apparently, people love to hear about our basement work, so we're going to keep updating you. But we finally painted the entire thing. I have to say you, Carolyn, did most of the work. I was not feeling my best self Saturday, and you so graciously did the bulk of the painting.
If there's one thing I can do, it's manual labor. And as long as it's not technical, I can just get in the zone and go for it. So I don't mind painting.
You don't typically love doing basement work, though, in general.
Correct.
Usually, if anyone's going to be doing something down there alone...
It's you. That is right.
I appreciate, the point I'm saying that is I appreciate that you still did it alone.
It is okay. We got it done. I think I'm just getting to the point where this must end soon. So I'm motivated. I'm motivated because now we just need to get the floor in and then it's time for decor. And that's really all I want to do is just decor.
Yeah. So exciting update for us. But outside of painting, we also had a fun weekend. We saw some friends, got dinner. We saw people out for St. Patty's Day. But one of the best things from the weekend was all the sports either in Denver or our Denver soccer team played for the first time ever. So should we get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. And we actually are going to start off this episode with the Les.
Ooh, I love the Les. It has been a while.
Yeah, and please write into us and ask us questions. I don't know. You could ask us for advice if you want our really bad advice.
Yeah.
But we would love to have some more questions come into the Les. So this is actually from a while back. I'll read it now. Hi, Carolyn and Danielle, longtime listener, first time emailing. My partner Heather and I love the show. Please keep doing it, even if Danielle doesn't want to.
Wow. I don't know how to take that.
You've made it known on here that you really only do this because I'm so passionate about it.
I'm just kidding. I'm not calling out our listeners.
All right, back to the email. I was wondering if you two could do a deep dive into why ESPN doesn't or won't include PWHL schedules and games on their app or website. Is there beef there? More misogynistic decision making at ESPN? I still can't believe there's no coverage despite the league's success. It's so frustrating. Thanks for all you do, Chelsea. First of all, we love Chelsea and Heather. They are awesome. Thank you for listening to us and thank you for always supporting us. We love to see you when we see you around Denver. This is actually an old email from December, and I reached out to the PWHL first about this. I sent them an email and I was like, hey, what's going on here. And their spokesperson indicated that they want their scores featured on ESPN and have been trying to get them added since the beginning of the PWHL back in 2024. So then I actually went on the ESPN app where the scores are, and I went into the chat and I chatted with someone on the app and I was like, where are the PWHL scores? And they were like, we don't have them. And I was like, why not? And they're like, we're not really sure. And I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Can I talk to someone about it? And they were like, you have to complete this survey at the end. And I was like, whatever, do whatever. But the person who I was chatting with was like, yeah, these scores should be there. That's what they said, which I thought was an interesting admission on their part. So then I finally found a PR contact at ESPN and I sent them multiple emails and have not received a response at all. They will not tell me why they won't add the scores to the app.
It makes no sense. This is a professional league, and it's just so frustrating.
It is very frustrating, and we've said this on this podcast a lot, but we talk about there's this discourse of no one likes to watch women's sports, and it's like, actually, they don't even know it's happening, because if you use the ESPN app, which tons of people do, you can't even see that a game is on right now. And I just find that so frustrating and setting up these professional women's leagues for failure.
Yep.
However, the PWHL has been wildly successful without ESPN. I think it's important to note that networks tend to prioritize leagues they broadcast or have major coverage deals with. And the PWHL does not currently have a major media deal. They broadcast all of their games in the US on YouTube. It is also interesting to me, though, because ESPN will exclusively present the 2026 NCAA Women's Ice Hockey Championship. So I was looking at some things online and they were like, ESPN isn't really even into the NHL. So why would they be into the PWHL? And then I saw this and I was like, they are taking on women's ice hockey in NCAA, and all of those games are going to be streaming on ESPN Plus. So what's going on? So I'm really sorry, Chelsea. I don't have a good answer to this.
Despite all your efforts.
Despite me trying to track down someone at ESPN. And I always think about, and I know this is going to sound insane, but I'm like, one day when we make it big and ESPN's going to reach out to us and want to do something, and I'm going to be like, look at the last email I sent you. You never responded. So never mind. No,
wow.
That won't happen. ESPN, if you want to work with us, I'd be happy to do so. I also want to say that there are some ways where you can see PWHL scores easily. So the official league website, obviously, if you just search the PWHL and go onto their website, you can see scores. But there's also some fan-made dedicated apps like the PWHL fan app, which I actually just downloaded. And I was like, I don't know if I want to have to open up another app to see the scores of this. But I've used it now numerous times since I downloaded it. And I think it's really intuitive. It tells you exactly who scored. It has their pictures on it. It has the standings. And I'm like, great. So because ESPN won't do it, we have to have a fan make an app, but it does provide the schedule, live scores, and standings, and I think it's awesome. The other thing that I do want to mention is that the PWHL did just announce their first national US broadcast, and it's going to be on March 28th. And ION will nationally broadcast the 1 p.m. matchup between the New York Sirens and the Montreal Victoire at the Detroit Takeover Tour game.
Love that. Well deserved. It's obvious that people want to watch this. It's so fun, and I'm excited for them that they're making that progress.
For sure. And like with that, we need to talk about the Takeover Tour that happened in Denver this past weekend. We had a blast.
Yes, we got lucky in Denver this year. So last year, the PWHL did one Takeover Tour game. This year, this was our second opportunity to go to a Takeover Tour game. And we did go to both this year. And this past Sunday, the Minnesota Frost took on the New York Sirens. The Frosts ended up winning this game 4-3, but it wasn't as close as you would think throughout the entire match. It was 4-0.
For most of the game.
And in the third period, like halfway through the third period, that's when the New York Sirens started making moves. But we'll get into that more. One of the highlights we want to share is 15,512 fans were in the stadium. This was at Ball Arena here in Denver. As a reminder, we do not have a team in Denver. So these are two neutral teams, and it just shows how much Denver wants a team.
Multiple times while we were watching, we were were getting chills and you were like, I have tears in my eyes. And it was interesting because we're going to get into the post-game pressers a little bit, but we had media passes for this and the players were like, yeah, it gets us a little teary-eyed when we hear chants like we want a team, or when we see all of these signs at a neutral site. It's just really, really amazing.
Yeah. And also in the post-game presser for New York Sirens, we got to talk to Micah Zandihart, and she was one of the ones who was saying you get chills when you hear people chant we want a team. I would say the crowd leaned towards Minnesota, but there were definitely a lot of New York Sirens jerseys, and there was a wee woo.
Yes.
And we learned wee woo for the Sirens is like the signs for them. So people were definitely rooting for them. We were rooting for them being from New Jersey. And she was saying that gives her chills. And also whenever she sees people in a Sirens jersey, even in Vancouver where she's from, it just makes her so happy. And she says like someone is using their hard earned money to support us, and it means a lot.
Yeah. And as per usual, the players are just like the most gracious and awesome players to talk to. But let's get into this match a little bit more. So the Frost scored in the first period. It was a sick goal from Grace Zumwinkle. We asked her about it after the game. Was it something that she saw happening, or did she see an opportunity and just go after it? And she said, I just saw a lane and I just went for it. The goal was sick. It was sick.
Yeah.
And she was being modest, and she was like, I think if I did that 9 more times, I probably wouldn't go in it. And I'm like, please, you're a professional. I'm sure it would. It was a sick goal. So it was 1-0 after the first period. And then we go into the second period, and Minnesota Frost go off and they score 3 goals. So it's a quick 4-0 at the end of the second.
The first goal to start the second period was literally less than a minute into the second period. And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
It was starting to get depressing after a while.
Oh, it was. And I was like, oh man, if this is 4-0 at the end of this, we knew we were going into the post games, and it's not fun to talk to the losing team. And I was like, if it's 4-0, it's going to be a rough presser.
Yeah. And I started to get torn because Minnesota Frost have the only 2 Colorado natives in the whole PWHL. So there's 19 states represented among the PWHL players, only 2 Colorado natives in the whole league. And they're both Minnesota Frost, one of them being the goalie for the Minnesota Frost.
Nicole Hensley.
Yes. I was getting to a point where I was like, well, it would be cool if Nicole Hensley got a shutout at her home state, and she was playing unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And then on the other hand, I was like, I want to see New York score and make this a game. And we got to see Nicole Hensley play a sick game, and we got to see New York turn it around in the third period.
Yeah, they came alive in the third period. They scored 3 in a row. Minnesota actually didn't end up scoring in this third period. It got chaotic at the end of the game. New York pulled their goalie, and then they put her back in for a face-off, and then they took her out, and it was just like chaos because New York was putting pressure on, but then Minnesota would get it, and you were like, oh my gosh, they don't have a goalie in. How are they going to defend this? And they somehow did. It was wild.
Yeah, and there were points in this game where I was like, the crowd seems quiet, but every time something happened, everyone would erupt. And especially in the last few minutes, I'd say the last 2 minutes when that chaos was happening, people were going nuts. And I think it was quiet because people are so intently watching. The crowd was awesome.
It was awesome. And the crowd, like you said, leaned a little bit more Minnesota, but there were a ton of Sirens fans, and everyone was just excited that it was turning into a game. So everyone was standing up. It was really cool to be part of. We were grabbing onto each other, screaming, jumping up out of our seats.
It was one of the most exciting hockey games. That third period, we haven't gone to a ton of hockey games live, but that one really was exciting.
Yeah, and the Minnesota Frost survived this. They end up winning 4-3. I also just need to say that we had amazing seats for this, and we need to shout out our friend Mike, who hooked us up. We were in a suite, and it was at the center of the ice, and it was just like the most perfect way to watch a game.
And Mike is also a big supporter of the pod,
so big
fan, and the nicest. So yes, shout out to Mike and thank you.
Yeah, and it was just so cool to be in the center of all of it. As you mentioned, in the post-game presser, we got Micah Zandihart, who is the captain for the New York Sirens and was really great after the game. And then for Minnesota, we got Nicole Hensley, who is from Colorado, and then Grace Zumwinkle, who scored 2 goals for Minnesota. Nicole did share just like how awesome it was to get the reception she did when they announced her name. She was so grateful for that. And there was actually a great sign. And I was going to ask her about the sign, and she brought it up just like out of the blue. The sign said something along the lines of, Nicole, do you remember the concussion you gave me in soccer? ? I don't.
And it was from high school.
Yeah.
And I think it was like Riverside High School soccer or something.
It was so cool. And she was like, I saw that sign. I don't remember the concussion. But just like people showed up, and it must be an interesting feeling to be like, oh, that person remembers playing soccer against me, and now I'm famous and a professional athlete, and they have a story about me that I don't even remember. That's a cool thing to have.
Yeah, I agree. And something else you hear the players say a lot, and Nicole said this in the post game. Someone in the post game press conference asked, yes, the big event of this weekend is the game, but also the PWHL Tour. They do open practice throughout the weekend. Yep. They do clinics for the younger kids. And every Takeover Tour game we go to, there are a ton of youth girls teams in their jerseys, pumped to be there. And she said, we didn't have professional hockey players to look up to outside of the USA team that would come through. She named 2 different years.
Yeah.
And she was like, for these kids to have that and to be able to look up to players and have players in their home city is amazing.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress that enough, how much that means to the players and how much it means to young girls.
For sure. I also want to point out that there were a ton of young boys
and
there and men. And I just love that. Not that we need boys and men there in order to make it real, but I do think we are going to transition to when, if you ask a little boy who his favorite athlete is, the chances of it being a woman are going to increase. And I just love that.
Yes.
So we love the Takeover Tour. We need a team.
Yeah.
We're so ready.
Awesome.
Give Denver a PWHL team. I need to spend my money on more season tickets.
Yeah. And I know we'll get to this later in the episode, but we're proving it. Denver FC, the home opener hasn't happened yet, but we already sold over 50,000 tickets for the home opener. So we have constantly proven that we're ready for women's sports. And at these Takeover Tours, we show up.
For sure. Before we get into Denver, we need to talk about the Paralympics. The Paralympics closed out this past weekend, but we need to take some time and talk about USA's Oksana Masters, who came into the Paralympics as the USA's most decorated winter Paralympian of all time with 19 Paralympic medals, but she racked up some more. She specializes in para cross-country skiing, the biathlon, and road cycling. So she competes in both the Summer and Winter Olympics since 2012. She also has a medal in rowing, but she had to stop rowing due to injury. So road cycling in the summer, and then cross-country skiing and biathlon in the winter.
So she has an engine.
She definitely has an engine. Yeah. She added 5 more medals in this Paralympics. She won gold in the biathlon sprint, gold in cross-country sprint sitting, gold in cross-country 10-kilometer interval start sitting, and gold in the cross-country mixed relay for Team USA. On top of that, she closed out the Paralympics with a bronze in the cross-country women's 20-kilometer sitting race.
Wow.
She leaves the Paralympics with 24 medals, 13 of which are gold. She, like I mentioned, is the most decorated Winter Paralympian of all time for the USA, and her story is really incredible. So she was born in Ukraine and adopted by an American woman when she was 7 years old. Oksana later had to have her legs amputated due to radiation exposure from the Chernobyl disaster.
Jesus, I can't even imagine.
So she has had a ton of surgeries, but her drive to compete is what, to me, is like the most incredible thing about her. She had a brutal stretch of injuries before the Milan Cortina Paralympics, including a bone infection in her leg, a rib fracture from a crash, and a dislocated finger requiring ligament surgery. I know.
All of
just
those
horrible.
sound horrible.
She pushes through a lot of injuries, sometimes at risk of her own body. She tells a story where a doctor pretty much told her she couldn't compete, and she competed anyway, which sounds like a lot of other athletes we know.
Lindsey Vonn comes to mind.
I think that some people view the Paralympics as it's like somehow just a nice thing that we do, and I hate that. But I think she is the perfect reminder and the perfect showing that these athletes are elite athletes. And if you listen to any interview with Oksana, that is so clear to see. Like, she is there to win. She is there to compete. And she's like ultimately there to stack up as many medals as she can. And she went out there and did exactly that. She's definitely someone you want to learn a little bit more about. She has some great interviews out there. She has a great article with the Players Tribune. Before the Paralympics, she did a great interview with Sarah Spain. Her mindset and the way she thinks about things is really incredible, and her story is also incredible. But elite athlete doing elite things, and yeah, walks out of the Paralympics with a lot of medals around her neck.
Yeah, shout out to her and all the Paralympians, and that really closes out the Olympics for this year.
I know. So sad.
Yeah.
What a great Olympics and Paralympics. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the NWSL.
Yes. Finally, Denver Summit is here, and they finally played their first game.
So the NWSL kicked off their 14th season this past weekend. The Denver Summit played their first game ever, as you mentioned, against Bay FC. This was at Bay, and Bay won this match 2-1.
And I just have to say, we've never had a women's sports team here in Denver. And yes, we have our teams that we watch in other cities for different sports. But the feeling I had this past weekend watching this game was just so different. I felt so much more pride. Now, I have a lot to learn about these players because I'm still learning the roster. But I just know I'm going to be so pumped and have so much fun this season watching them.
Yeah, you were a lot more into it than I've ever seen you.
For soccer.
Yes. Yeah. And you were like holding my hand a couple of times. You were getting really into it. And yeah, this is what it means to have a team in your city. So in the 8th minute of this match, 18-year-old Alex Pfeiffer for Bay scored to make it 1-0.
This was a sick goal.
It was a sick goal. She just graduated high school.
Yeah. They were like, oh, she just graduated high school. And then they're showing her team celebrate her high school like they had a little thing for her. I'm just like, what?
And she scored the goal and she gave a look like, yeah, I own this place.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this is an 18-year-old with so much confidence, which we love to see. But then in the 20th minute, Denver scores an equalizer. Melissa Kussler scored Denver's first ever NWSL goal, which is so cool. Like, you're going down in the history books to make it 1-1. It was from a sick pass from Denver's captain, Janine Sonis, who is a Highlands Ranch, Colorado native. So that was also very cool.
Yeah. I was pumped in this moment.
Also a sick goal.
Yeah.
Like, beautifully placed, beautifully shot, beautifully finished.
So nice.
But then in the 27th minute, Janine Sonis, who just provided that great goal, received a red card and left the Summit with 10 players for the rest of the game very early in the match.
Yeah, I mean, talk about taking the wind out of your sails.
I know.
To go into this game. You just tied it. You had the assist. And now you have to play majority of the game, like a lot of the game. There was still a lot of time in that first half down a player.
Yeah.
Oh, now, was it a red card? The analyst said yes. But what they also said, which I agree with, is as a ref, you also have to think about, like, I struggle. I go back and forth. You have to think about the situation. Clearly, she just mistimed this. They're saying the slide tackle, her foot hit up a little too high.
And she apologized immediately.
Yeah.
Which maybe she knows to do that, but
it
whatever.
didn't look dirty to me. Yeah. But on one end, I'm like, you have to set the tone early as a ref, and a rule is a rule. And on the other end, I'm like, oh, it should be situational. So I go back and forth.
And it looked a lot worse in slow-mo than it did in real time.
As do all things.
Yeah. But sometimes the slow-mo is helpful because you're like, that's exactly what happened. But yeah. It didn't look that bad in real time.
And the hard thing was, at first it was a yellow card, then they reviewed it and came back out and said red card. And that really killed me.
Yeah, that was a bummer for the Summit. And then in the 31st minute, Joelle Anderson for Bay scored what became the game winner. But no one scored after that again. So, like, for me, Denver loses their first game 2-1, but I'm still optimistic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First game ever for the club. And I thought they really showed up on the road. I'm pumped for this team.
Definitely. This looks like a team that I could really get behind. Like, they were fun to watch. They played good defense. I was like, cool, I'm here.
And they're young. And they're young in the midfield. And the announcers were talking. Lindsay Heaps is going to come mid-season. She'll provide more experience, and to have a young team is both exciting and they're going to have their moments, and it's just going to be a fun season, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, Denver's first home game is March 28th. It's going to be at Empower Field where the Broncos play, and they've already sold over 50,000 tickets. It's scheduled to break the league's single game attendance record, and it'll also break the first game for a team's record
for home game. Yeah, I would say if you're listening and you're in Denver and you don't have your tickets yet, get your tickets. This is literally going to be history in the making. This is going to be a historic event, and I don't know. I think you're going to want to be there for it. I know I can't wait. The energy at the hockey game over the weekend, I was just like, we're going to have 5 times as many fans at the soccer game. It's just going to be insane. I'm probably going to cry several times.
Yep. We're just going to stay crying because, it's just a cool time to be at this place in women's sports where it's just growing and people are excited about it. I'm very happy to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's long overdue, but I'm happy to be here.
For sure. Let's get into some updates.
Yeah, so we have Run Club this Thursday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time here in Denver at the 99ers Sports Bar. If you listen to our podcast and share a secret word with the bartenders each week after a 3-mile run, you will get 50% off your first draft. This week, the secret word is anniversary. In honor of Run Club hitting our 1-year anniversary this past week, we celebrated with cake and cupcakes. Sourdough, thanks to our runners who wanted to make it special. It is a really great group, so we hope to expand and see you there.
Yeah, please come out to Run Club. We also need to remind you to please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We create, produce, and edit the podcasts ourselves, so if you want to support us, which I know you do, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, give us a positive review, and most importantly, share this podcast with someone you love or who loves women's sports. Thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast so far. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker for free. You can send us a DM on Instagram with it. You can send us an email with it at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com. Get your rating in and we will send you that sticker.
Yes. All right, now for the main event, the deep dive for this week. The brackets are finally here.
Yes, this is NCAA women's basketball, so let's get into it. Selection Sunday happened this past Sunday, and the bracket was announced. So let's get into the regions. We'll talk about each of the 4 regions and who is at the top and the 6 seeds in them and anything that we kind of noticed looking at the bracket.
And we did get the first 4 right.
We did. You want to list off regional number 1?
Yes, so number 1 overall, we knew this was going to be the case. The UConn Huskies. Then you have number 2, Vanderbilt. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, North Carolina. Number 5, Maryland. And number 6, Fighting Irish, Notre Dame. I was giving them some flack last week, saying I wasn't sure if they were going to make it, which in hindsight is ridiculous. But anyways, they better get their butts into gear.
It's hard when it's your own team. It's like, they're being so bad they might not even make it. But they did make it to the tournament. They're 6th seed in this regional 1. The matchup that I think could be a really interesting one is actually a Notre Dame versus Ohio State matchup in the second round.
I unfortunately don't have high hopes for Notre Dame. And again, it's just me protecting myself. I'd be thrilled if they went on, but yeah, I agree. That will be an interesting matchup.
I do think UConn Vandy will be a good game if it goes 1-2 the whole way into the Elite 8, but I do think this is going to be UConn all the way.
Yeah, I would say so.
So that brings us into regional 2. In the number 1 spot is UCLA. Number 2 is LSU. Number 3, Duke. Number 4, Minnesota. Number 5, Ole Miss. And number 6, Baylor. So Minnesota actually beat out Maryland for this spot. Minnesota is number 4 in this regional 2, and Maryland is number 5 in regional 1. I think it's an interesting choice.
Yeah, same.
Mostly because I don't hear much about Minnesota, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. The other matchup that I'm looking at is Baylor-Duke, which could happen in the second round. And I think that's an interesting matchup.
Yeah, we talked about Duke quite a bit last week, how they've hit a hot streak recently, Can they keep it going? We will see. I think overall this is a really tough bracket.
Yeah, to me, this is the toughest region to get through. The thought of UCLA versus LSU in Elite 8 game is just a rough one.
Yeah.
Anyone who has LSU has like consistently been a 2 or 3 seed. It just stinks to have them in your bracket.
Yeah, and UCLA has been having a great year, but they call it March Madness for a reason. You just don't know. And then going into Regional 3, we have number 1 Texas, number 2 Michigan, number 3 Louisville, number 4 West Virginia, number 5 Kentucky, and number 6 Alabama.
Yeah, the matchup that I am actually interested in this regional is NC State, who is ranked number 7, versus Tennessee, who's ranked number 10 in the first round.
Yeah. Tennessee is another team where I'm like, you've just been struggling this year. I'm going to be interested to see how they come out.
They've been having a real rough season, but that's going to be a good matchup in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Regional 4, in the number 1 spot is South Carolina. Number 2 is Iowa. Number 3 is TCU. Number 4 is Oklahoma. Number 5 is Michigan State. And number 6 is Washington. Okay, I have some feelings about this. Just like your Notre Dame, I'm like, this is a tough one for South Carolina. First of all, South Carolina will either play Clemson or USC in the second round, assuming South Carolina wins their first round, which is very interesting. Clemson is their rival, and USC, like, they have this who is the real USC battle, which I think is like an interesting thing. On top of that, they have Oklahoma, who they would need to play if they win out. They'll need to play in the Sweet 16, and Oklahoma has beaten South Carolina this year.
Yes.
In overtime, South Carolina did not look good. So this bracket is rough.
Yeah.
Then I just want to point out that Iowa is playing Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round.
Go Jersey.
And I think I'm taking FDU because I'm such an Iowa hater.
You are. And you're going for your Jersey roots.
Exactly. Is this why we don't have more listeners? Because I don't back Iowa enough?
Probably.
To me, Regional 1 with UConn and Regional 3 with Texas seem like the easier routes. It's interesting to me, though, because on Selection Sunday, the broadcasters were saying that they thought South Carolina, which is Regional 4, and Regional 3 Texas, who I just mentioned, had the easier route. But I really don't think this Regional 4 is going to be the easiest route for South Carolina.
No, I think all the brackets have their challenges.
Yeah.
And yeah, South Carolina, they've struggled in some games this year. So I don't know. They got to come to every game playing their best.
And I'm worried, to be very honest. Like we said, though, I do think the Regional 2 with UCLA, I think they have the hardest route to get to a Final Four. The winner of Regional 1 plays the winner of Regional 4. So if the top seeds make it, it would be UConn versus South Carolina in the Final Four. And then the winner of Regional 2 plays the winner of Regional 3. So then it would be UCLA versus Texas for that Final Four. Are you still sticking with
You know it.
the top 4? Okay.
That's what I said in the beginning of the season. I'm sticking to my guns.
You should stick with them. I think if anything were to happen, I think UConn's making it through. I think if there was an upset in Regional 2, it would be that UCLA-LSU matchup, and I think maybe LSU could squeak by. I think Texas has got it down in Regional 3, and then Regional 4, I'd be really interested to see that Oklahoma-South Carolina matchup. I've got my eyes on it.
Yeah, and who knows? TCU could also do some damage.
I know. I don't like this. I don't like
know.
this at all. There's
know.
too many question marks in that region. All right, let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. Danielle, what do you have?
No surprise here. I am looking forward to the NCAA tournament first round, which begins this Friday, March 20th. There's going to be games all day. Get ready.
And we are not working on Friday, and
Woo!
I'm going to be posted up.
Yeah.
It is a holiday. Take off on Friday.
Yes. What are you looking forward to besides that?
In the NWSL, the Cascadia rivalry is back, and that is the match between the Portland Thorns and the Seattle Reign. It'll be played at Portland on Friday, March 20th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Amazon Prime. The NWSL is back. March Madness is here. So many fun things. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.